When I first heard our school was to be studied, I was unaware of how the policy worked. I felt temporarily relieved because it states as follows, quote, "The Department of Education recognizes schools are integral to the promotion and preservation of the local culture and community, especially in rural areas." That's section 6.5.3 for anyone who doesn't know. I was relieved until I realized that you couldn't have possibly read that line. Perhaps your reading time was cut short by the train showing up in your office with budget cuts as top priority for you between January and April. I can appreciate that you had to look for fast action. But again, reading the policy, I was feeling that you really must have missed its importance when you still decided to focus your attention on Dorchester and Riverside. Giving you the benefit of the doubt, I attended your first meeting to hear why you've chosen us. Maybe I had missed something. Finding upon arrival that we were able to ask questions, I decided to ask, for example, if you looked at the possible reconfiguration of some of the urban schools that I found on your website to be relatively close in distance, as I was under the impression that this was of first importance to the policy, looking at areas where there were more than one school, where there would be less of a negative impact on a community. I found several of these schools, all being under 50% capacity as well, and that would make a much better use of policy time and effort to reconfigure. For example, taking schools at 45% to make one at 90. Doing this several times opens up schools as vacant space that could generously accommodate your overflow at certain schools as well as your offices. I would like to point out that before meeting Ms. Wood tonight, I felt a little bit intimidated. I felt intimidated because she's the representative for some of the urban schools that have these low capacity ratios, is the chair of the DEC, and sits on the planning commission for the new Lumen extension that has proposed to claim part of our attachment that's asked to be extended to Woodhurst. Anyone who knows where Woodhurst Road is would realize that these kids would face extremely long bus rides, much longer than the ones that Mrs. Atkinson has just pointed out as being unacceptable. I therefore decided to ask you what you thought of Mr. Ingersoll, about the reconfiguration that was. You told me then you agreed that it was an area for thought, an area that you had thought of, but that unfortunately it couldn't be carried out as quickly as you could carry out the closure of our school and the relocation of our children. And that unfortunately we were at the previous meeting out of convenience due to your timeline. That to me was unacceptable. You had suggested that you would be interested in working with me that evening at better looking at the reconfiguration of the urban schools and better dispersal of the budget. However, you were unable to return my phone calls, probably due to a timeline. You had also pointed out that there were two children that right now sit on a bus for, as you stated, quote, an unreasonable amount of time based on how close they currently live to the school. I had pointed out that those were my own children, and you had assured me that one simple phone call could have fixed that problem prior to that evening, and assured me that it could be fixed if I were to make that phone call now. I, of course, was upset by that, because I previously looked into this, and anyone who I spoke to told me that it was very unavoidable. But under your public direction, and now feeling a little bit stupid, I decided to call right away. When I did, I wasn't shocked when I talked to Pat Steves, and she told me that there was nothing that we could do about the current busing situation for my children. It's just an unfortunate part of where we live. That was now unacceptable. I'd like to give a little spoiler alert at this point and ask everybody to pay close attention to Sarah Boyce and Michelle Fulton's presentations. They're going to be very beneficial. Back to that evening, a fellow parent an audience member asked Mr. Findell, our duly elected DEC rep, to say a few words to us, his former students and fellow citizens. It was with great hesitation that anyone wanted him to speak. I heard what he had to say, and of course went again on the search for information. I found, as we'd suspected, that Mr. Findell had brought forth his educated opinion on many issues facing our Department of Education to the DEC. He's never had a short thought for words. my teacher. I know that. I'd like to quote something out of some talking points that I found that he had put on the internet. This is Wayne speaking. I find it hard to believe that some members of the DEC don't think we're here to critically examine the Department of Education. Instead, we often mimic the monothoughts of the department. Where is the accountability when provincial officials, through highly sophisticated provincial hegemons, control all matters that are important to teachers and parents? For example, ignoring evidence-based reports, I find it hard to believe that even though the $12 billion debt stains New Brunswick so deeply that a succession of ministers of education ignored the Auditor General and the Lawrence Beesley's report on structural reform, where the well-documented diseconomies and amalgamation are clearly stated, unquote. He also pointed out that perhaps we are due for a long overdue forensic audit, pointing out that it's not as easy to remove politics. Again, begging you to realize that you are responsible for your actions. You've been elected to make these decisions for the government. This does not mean you shouldn't debate. On that, I'd like to say that I'm a parent and I take my children's future very seriously. So when I realized at that first meeting that 6 members did not show up, I, as well as the rest of the people who rushed home from work and got babysitters so that we could be in attendance, wanted to know why there were only 3 members there. Where were they? The justification of their absence came from you, Mr. Ingersoll, telling us, quote, they have lives, unquote. Again, to me, that was unacceptable and wrong. I did wonder at that point if those people that were too busy with their lives were going to be given the opportunity to vote, as they missed one entire meeting, 1 out of 3. I'd like to point out that Anglophone West was rescheduled 3 times because not all of their members could attend their first meeting. I was told that our DEC members were going to be able to vote, and again, I think that in respect to the policy, that is wrong. Because imagine if all 3 members that were in attendance that night voted to keep us open because of something that they had felt or that they heard in that night. How fair is that in respect to the procedural fairness stated in the policy? We have lives too. We've not only been going to our jobs, but we've been spending every last minute of our days exhausting ourselves and our families and putting together facts and presentations to show you why our school is essential to the promotion and the preservation of our local community and culture, 6.5.3 of your policy. To take the only school out of a community as a first resort to a so-called financial crisis when it can be proven time and again that financially there is no benefit. Long-term and a very minimal one, in a one-time short-term savings is wrong. Why would we want to close schools that are in need of very minimal repair and are fully functioning on already skeleton budgets in a time where there is little to no money for the province to waste, when we could look at them as a model on thriving with reduced budgets? I would like to say that again, I was disheartened by your list of numbers in regards to the repair you suggested for our school, when in fact any repair that is truly justifiable is only a need due to your neglect, not ours, not our children's, not the community's. It would be wrong to neglect a child, would it not? I don't think you'd find a parent, DEC member, teacher, or community member in attendance tonight that would say that they reject the Child Protection Act. Yet all of us as parents and citizens reject policy Forum 9. Why? Because it does not fairly protect all children and communities. Imagine if we were to rewrite the direction of these sustainability studies in New Brunswick and make a model out of DCS with regards to the hub community school approach that Paul Brennan has brought forth in the province, making a slight reference to River John because they are the same size and they faced more problems than us, but they were able to save their schooling as a community. We here, for example, have been working hard on several different approaches. One that I've personally been involved with is a before and after school program. I've been in contact with your Claire Archibald with the district in regards to this program, but have yet to receive the relevant information needed to move forward. I plan on moving forward with the people who have shown interest and commitment regarding this. I feel that this is another very viable solution to your current problem we are facing in regards to the size of our school and student capacity, as it would draw back people to us whose children currently leave the community. with a youth-based center for the children in the early morning and after-school hours, promoting positive environments and positive economic regrowth solutions to the community and to you, the DEC members, in regard to the cost of our facility by generating revenue back to you, and not pushing one debt from an area of government to another by the closure of our school. By again solving the problem completely, all the while making a model out of our school and you, DEC representatives, by showing how we came together as a community and we rerouted the tracks on this train, all the while keeping the school and setting the bar for the other 48% of rural New Brunswick in regards to policy and suggesting that it be implemented, that we first look at all other viable reconfigurations and viable solutions before we close communities and schools. Another wonderful viable solution that will be put forth to you this evening is by Cheryl Findell, and you should really look at that because it embraces everything I've just spoken about. We have come up with real problem-solving, viable solutions to your current situations that can better the province and embrace the natural diversity of our small town, our small communities. We in Dorchester have a long-time history of first, and we would encourage you to use this as a model in your future planning in regard to maintaining rural settings and using them to bring back people and economy to the province, promoting, again, a positive light to you as well as the rest of the province. Please do not use us as a model in the closure and demise of rural areas. There are other options, but if you close this school, you close this community. We want to sustain our community and our school, and we will if given time. We would suggest that a policy like this be given the full 12 months, not 4 months, not 1/3 of what we had, and I beg you to admit that this was wrong in a means of direction, of closure, and to embrace the information that will be put forth to you tonight. We have found great solutions. Work with us, work in everyone's favor, and show wins for all. Although it will fall out of your end of the month deadline, you are the decision makers. Please be aware that you are responsible for your actions. Say no to the minister that you are not choosing to close our school at this time because you've not been given enough time to properly conduct this study. That you will not close Riverside because you've not been given the time to properly conduct that study. That you stand with us in saying we should have a moratorium on school closure, allowing us the same respect as the 42 upcoming schools and implementing a new policy 409 that will embrace Paul Bennett's program and regrow rural areas. In closing, I would like to quote one of your magazines. And it's one of the articles from one of your magazines by Anne Bernard Bourgeois. It states, "It takes a community to raise a child, and if it hurts, it's wrong." Please take this in our community into your hearts over the next 8 days while you hopefully ponder your own undirected thoughts and come up with your vote.
Good evening, DEC members, neighbors, concerned citizens. My name is Alice Fultons, former District 14 school trustee, parent, grandparent, community volunteer. And I want to express my opinions and to state that I reject the policy and its implementation. Having said that, I have a job to do tonight, and that is to educate you to who and what Dorchester stands for. Your job is to listen, and I hope we'll finish at the same time. I was going to have a roll call to verify who is here and give each of the DEC members, as I call your name, a number. Then repeat the roll call using the number. However, time is short. The point of that was to show how when a child goes to a rural school, where everyone knows them, to a larger school in a larger community, they become just a number. That happened to me. They no longer are in their comfort zone. They feel very small, insignificant, and invisible. And trust me, it does stick with you. I can remember coming home every day saying, "Mom, can I quit school today?" And she'd say, "Try one more day." Christmas, I kept asking her. "It's Christmas. I've been there since September. Can I please quit?" She said, "You've got two options. Stay, you get a Canada pension, or graduate." I graduated. That is how our children are feeling with what is happening in rural New Brunswick and our school. Please think about this as you ponder your decisions and recommendations. Let me give you an insight into how Dorchester has been demoted again and again over the years. From the time it was a hub of industry when Moncton was just a bend in the river, a dirty river. Dorchester citizens had impacted not only New Brunswick, but Canada. In our KD, we had 2 sirs, 4 premiers, a premier who delayed Confederation by 11 months, another one who was a father of Confederation, 4 shipyards, 18 lawyers, 2 senators, a judge of the Privy Court, and our own power plant, copper mine, stove manufacturing plant, our own newspaper, and we were responsible for the railroad going through not only Dorchester, but Moncton. It should have gone through Shediac, and then we've had this meeting in Moncton, decided that we were closing the school. We also had a number of hotels and stores and restaurants, the customs office, and we were the envy of other communities. I might add, however, we still have our magnetic hill. Having other communities envy you is not a pleasant thought. Let me explain how it has impacted our community. Dorchester Penitentiary, powers that be, who did not think about the impact their actions would have in Dorchester, decided to encourage people to move away. They even gave them an incentive by paying them mileage to move to Moncton, Shediac, and beyond. They thought it would be beneficial for the employees. In Dorchester, this eliminated more than 44 guardrail houses, and all the good ones have been torn down, so all you'll see is what's left. Can you imagine the impact on the population in the 2 schools, not to mention the 5 churches? We now have only 1 school and 1 struggling church. Then, when our courthouse burned down, it gave Moncton another opportunity to request that the new courthouse be built in Moncton, chipping a little more of Dorchester away. The changing of school catchment area chipped away even more. The children who lived in Taylor Village, Pembroke, and Calhoun, who used to come to Dorchester, were then being shipped to Lakeburn and later to Dieppe to make their schools more sustainable. Just an impact on our school and the children being used. Their time on the buses increased due to an additional 10 kilometers or more to go to Dieppe as opposed to Dorchester. From my research, it appears an additional increase to that catchment area is planned by extending the boundaries again to include Woodhurst, which butts right up against the Dorchester Penitentiary property and within 1,000 yards of the village limits. Maybe they should take the inmates with them. Timeline of the erosion of the population of Dorchester and its sustainability. Dorchester's tried to keep up, but time did take its toll. It was downgraded from the town to a village. By this time, and after the courthouse was moved to Moncton, politics reared its ugly head again. Once again, it decided to move the county jail to Moncton. After all, it was too far to transport the inmates to trial. Ah, look at that. Things look the way that's going to. It's not too far to take our children. Let me continue. The province decided to take a big white elephant to Sackville called Tantamar High School. A school too big for the population of Sackville. Oh, but guess what? If they took the grade 10, 11, and 12s from Dorchester and Port Elgin right down to Cape Morgan House, it should work. It will only mean some students will be in the bus for 3 hours a day. Well, guess what? That still didn't fill the school. So again, they decided, we need more students. We'll go back to those 2 areas and take the grade 9s. They did. And by doing this, they were able to close down 2 schools, one in Port Elgin and one in Dorchester. And then again, nearly destroyed the 2 communities. The other school was right across the street, and they tore that down. With this late decision, our village will be non-existent. Our homes will lose value, fewer tax dollars to provide for infrastructure and maintenance. No one will want to move to this community where their children will not have a community environment. The social costs involved in closing all schools does not represent the true cost. The cost of abandoned buildings in a community, extra cost of policing and to the fire department to deal with the usual issues that arise with vacant buildings. In review, Dorchester still has much to offer. This is some of what we have been able to save. The Historical Society has invested in saving buildings and encouraging people to not only stop and visit, but come and stay, live here and work here. We have saved the Bell Inn, made it into a restaurant and apartments, as well as the Pheasant Card Building, where the library, line stand, and 2 apartments. Both were slated for demolition with the bulldozer at the door. We were able to save the Sophia of Landry House and make an office and 4 apartments to provide residents to keep people in Dorchester. We have 3 museums that were needing to be saved, and they have provided employment for the last 50 years. This volunteer group has pumped millions of dollars into this community and into saving buildings and employment in Dorchester. We have provided employment to 2 and 3 generations. The spin-off of these endeavors are just too large to address here. Even with the volunteering of hundreds of thousands of hours, we can only do so much towards trying to stop the erosion of our community by politicians who have their own secret agendas. Rural New Brunswick is under attack, and it is now time to step up to the plate. I urge you, DEC members, to think of the impact of New Brunswick your positions are having. Don't let dictators who have let the power they now wield to devastate the province of New Brunswick any further. Make them accountable. They are forcing you to take the heat of their inability to manage their budgets in a responsible, prudent way. In closing, with Dorchester School and the schools in rural New Brunswick is just moving the Department of Education's problems from that department to the Department of Fine Services budget, while crying for $95.9 million for new schools province-wide at a time of lower enrollments. Why are they not addressing the problem of saving money? Is this promised budget for new schools to make themselves look good? Stop this bribery. When we know promises are often written in ink, invisible ink, that, and not in fact and actions. We as volunteers and you as DEC members should be requesting time from the province for an extension of a year to actually review constructive ways to have long-term savings. For this, you'll need a backbone, and I suggest that the DEC volunteers, and I might add, are actually paid to do this job stand up and be counted. Make a case for what everyone believes in. Education should be for the children. They should not be a victim of poor planning and budgeting by politicians. I would like to stress to these politicians that 48% of New Brunswickers in northern New Brunswick, and they have a higher percentage of voting who actually turn out on election day and than the large municipalities and cities. This could very well backfire on their present government. If I were in your place, I wouldn't stand for what I know is right. Be accountable. Refuse to take the easy way out. Remember, in this present economy, nothing seems to be sacred. Your school and your community could be next. Let me just close with the following observation that needs to be addressed. In our research, we have discovered that Superintendent Ingersoll and Chair Nicholas have not declared in any of the minutes that I've been able to read their conflict of interest dating back to 2012. They both sit on the committee to promote a new school for Lua McNairn's school. That school has taken over our catchment area and proposed extension of our catchment area to make their school more sustainable. If this is so, Chair and Superintendent, I would like to see you excuse yourself from voting and for expressing any opinion on the closing of our school. I think you have a conflict. And the last item I would like to address is that I understand a student who is sitting in on the DEC committee, and it's right to do so. But as a taxpayer, I feel that a student who is not allowed to vote in Canada, not allowed to buy alcohol, cigarettes, or a lottery ticket should be deciding the future of this school or any other school in New Brunswick.
Good evening. That's a hard act to follow, but I'm going to try my best. I was going to ask for your complete attention. I can see that I've already got that. There's nobody saying a word here. Everybody's listening, and it's really nice to see. My name is Reg Tower. I am a citizen of this community for half a century. I have been an employee and an employer in this village. I have, for the past 19 years, I am a volunteer firefighter on the Dorchester Fire Department. I've been a training captain for 9 years, and I am very proud to say that I am the Deputy Chief of the Dorchester Fire Department for the past 3 years. And before all that, it was kindergarten to grade 9 for me right here in this school, and I'm very proud of that. Tonight I am the voice of the Dorchester Fire Department. I represent them, and I'm here to talk about our kids, our school, and our community. And I'd like to thank anybody that's been involved in allowing us to stand up here and speak tonight about this very important subject. Our relationship as a fire department with the Dorchester School, not surprisingly, has been a close one. For many years, we have roamed in this gym and in these classrooms. We've landed at the doors with our sirens roaring and full bunker gear. We've even taken part in the odd school play. Probably see that on the board every once in a while. I know fire prevention takes place in most schools, but when our fire prevention officer, Sarah, says that it's time to bring some awareness at school and hands go up, there's no problem finding volunteers. And the kids, they're ready and they're waiting to see what we have in our trucks and up our sleeves. The participation is everywhere. Teachers, kids, parents, even the janitor wants in. These young minds are sponges. This is a bond that surpasses duty and fire prevention, one that builds internal growth and trust. Turns out, at a time when volunteers, both rural and urban, are at an all-time low, our fire department, not huge, but stable and healthy. Our new firefighters mainly being juniors from this school. Just this month, a past student moved forward to be a full-time member on our team, doing his part in an important contribution to the safety of this community. For sure, we have seen this partnership grow young men and women, moving forward to responsible and professional people. Just in recent years, doctors, lawyers, RCMP, farmers, paramedics, soldiers, builders, and engineers. Most have stayed home, all that are openly thankful and proud of their roots. We need and are succeeding in reasons for young people to stay in rural areas like the village of Dorchester. We ask that you strongly consider the knowledge and the wares of volunteers and the people that make up and choose to live in this community. For us, the alternative is grim, short-sighted, and irresponsible, and leaves us with a large unattended structure that will be a liability and a danger for the village and our fire department. In closing, I am sure the relationship between urban schools and big fire departments are positive ones and also build characters. All I can say is that when our bay doors roll up and the toboggans are bicycles and smiling faces, across the road with arms up blowing for the siren saying, "I know you," and we say, "We know you too. We'll see you later," and we often do. Thank you very much, and please do the right thing.
people here tonight. My name is Michelle Falcons. I am a parent, and because of this process, I am now the provincial coordinator for Rural Schools Coalition, and I would like to say that I reject this process. Your projected total annual cost savings from closing DCS is a mere $569,186. And this includes teachers' salaries as well. What these savings look like from a percentage viewpoint to your provincial district budget, which is $983 million, is a mere 0.0579%. The Anglophone East district budget, from what I could tell, is $133,854,096. Your projected total annual cost savings from closing DCS is less than 0.5% of this budget. Now let's look at where you can really save money that does not involve a sole school community. From your monitoring report, dated June 17th, 2014, you had suggested closing 3 schools: Mountain View, Forest Glen, and Sunbrae. Building one state-of-the-art K-8 school to replace these 3 schools. Now, we have a shrinking student population, and we have a huge provincial debt. We should be utilizing what we have. So if you were to consolidate Mountain View to Forest Glen, 10.4 kilometers away, that is half the distance you are asking our children to travel. Your projected total annual cost savings from doing this would be $181,961. There would be no need to build your new school. That would be at least a one-time cost savings of $30 million. Your monitoring report, again dated June 17th, 2014, also suggests consolidating Marshview Middle School and Tantramar Regional High School, as well as consolidating Hillsborough and Caledonia. Marshview to Tantramar, 2.7 kilometers. We are looking at 20 kilometers to bus our children, but somehow you thought we were more convenient. Your projected total annual cost savings from this consolidation, $411,905, and that's without teacher salaries. Your potential consolidated cost savings from moving Hillsborough to Caledonia, 3 meters, yes, meters apart. Again, you're asking our children to travel 20 kilometers to the nearest school. Your projected total annual cost savings, $190,206. But I do believe these savings to be even higher, since you say you only pay $95 a year for your electricity and heat. Don't know how you're doing that one, but we'll go with the numbers provided. Looking further into multi-school communities, Hillcrest School, sitting at 51% capacity, Edith Cavell, 47% capacity. These are both K-8 schools, and these schools are 1.6 kilometers apart. Again, I will note, 20 kilometers for our nearest school. Your projected total annual cost savings for this consolidation would be $328,726. what we have. Currently, with my plan, we have 4 empty schools, and Sunnybury is still sitting at 56% capacity. So if you were to move Northrop Frye Overflow to one of those empty schools, again, please note the distances. 4.4 kilometers away, 9.2, 14.6, 12.7. Those are all shorter distances than what you are asking our children to travel. If you were, I noticed on your number 1 on your major capitals project list was a new addition to Northrop Frye School. But perhaps you decided not to do that since you have ordered an education facilities requirement study, which you are going to pay $50,000 for. Because let's face it, you would have requested a new school. In all my research, I have not found a single document showing where you actually use what you have. All I have seen are school closures for new school construction. An article dated December 22nd, 2014 proves just this. According